Hey guys, just getting set up here. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I have been having quite a busy week so far this week. I hope you are doing well. So I'm really excited about this Telehealth Tuesday series. I know that last week there were a ton of questions on how to set like prices and rates for different services, depending on what you're doing. And so that one, it's still in the group. It's under guides. If you want to catch the replay on that, it's also on my YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. And then tonight we are going over a new thing / kind of an old thing, depending on where you're at in your business. But I've been getting a lot of questions recently on how to know like whether you should be doing a sole proprietorship or you should be doing let me add this in here, an LLC. And like if you should be doing an LLC, should you have a PLLC? Should you investigate doing an S Corp instead? And so I want to make sure that we go over this because I know that this is definitely something that I get asked a lot. And so I wanted to make this resource for you guys to help you figure out what's going to be best for you moving forward. So if you are here with me, go ahead and say hi. Let me know that you're here and you're here with me live. And if you do have any questions as I'm going over this stuff, please drop a comment below. And I'm happy to answer things as we go. And then like if you're catching on the replay, same thing, go ahead and comment below and I will definitely get back to you. And then this also is kind of like a precursor to Thursday. We are doing a live stream with the one and only Brandon Smith here inside the group. He is currently in law school, and so he has a lot of knowledge on different like legal aspects of the practice and like what's allowed, what's not, especially when it comes to the state lines thing. So definitely jump in for that Thursday night. The event is somewhere here in the group, and we'd love to see you there. Hello. I can't say your name, but thank you for saying hi. I'm glad that you're here with me. All right, so let's jump into it tonight. So Telehealth Tuesday, and the question that I've been asked by a couple of people, I listed out Courtney and Niko, but I know I've been asked this by a bunch of other therapists as well. When I'm first getting started, should I do a sole proprietorship and potentially get a DBA, or what's known as a doing business as, or an LLC? And so like if you're any kind of business, honestly, I believe like you can definitely do this with both sole props and LLCs. If you name it one thing and then like for some reason you want to change the name, you can always get a DBA and just change your name. And so you can just look up, either like locally or on the state level, like how do I register for a DBA for my business? So anyway, so sole proprietorship or an LLC, what is the difference and which should I get and when should I do that? So we'll start actually with like what the differences are, kind of like pros and cons. And then we will go into like when in your journey it might be a good idea to get this done. So I'll go ahead and pull up, I made you guys another spreadsheet, which is fun. I'll go ahead and pull this up. And so if you do have any questions while we're going through this, please drop them in the comments below. Okay. All right. So I'm pretty sure I froze for a minute, but I think we're back. If you guys lose me, just let me know in the comments. Okay, so here is our spreadsheet that I made, kind of outlining the pros and cons to going sole proprietorship or going with an LLC or another business entity, kind of a step above that. And while we're going through these, I also made a list over here on things to consider. So, it might be great to list out all the pros and cons, but there are going to be different factors for you to consider. And for some people, like certain factors are going to weigh in a lot more than other factors. And so like in this consider column, I want you guys to consider what is most important to you. And it can be any of these, no judgment on any of them at all. But depending on what's most important to you, that will also help inform your decision. So your risk tolerance, I would say I'm low to medium risk tolerant. I am not somebody who really takes a ton of risk. I think like the most risky thing that I've ever done really is starting a business. And even in that, it's still a pretty safe bet, from what you guys have seen. Like, this is super doable for all of us. So if you are like more tolerant to risk, you might feel okay with the sole prop, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if you are like really risk averse, and you are wanting to have like as many protections in place as possible, you're probably going to want to go with an LLC. But then there's also your budget. So, where you're at right now, what can you really afford to invest at this point? Some people are also like more open to investing in their business right away. And some people are like, not like less open to investing, but they really want to make sure that they're staying within their budget and being financially responsible. Both options, totally fair again. But considering that, and then also kind of considering like the time versus money thing as well. So one thing with this might be, if you don't mind spending the time on this stuff, starting as a sole prop, knowing in a few months, you'll probably have to switch to an LLC, which will take up more time again. If you're okay with spending your time on that, then like that's one route to go down. But if you don't want to waste your time having to reapply for a bunch of different things, then you might want to just start with the LLC right from the get-go. And then credibility and long-term goals. So if you are kind of in the space of, I just want to try this out and see if I can actually get any patients and see if this works for like 3 to 6 months, that might indicate staying on the side of sole proprietorship. Where you're not really sure if you believe in yourself or you're that confident in what you can do. Or you just want to see, and you don't want to dive too deep right away. But if you know that your long-term goal is to operate your own business and do this on your own, that's why I just went with an LLC right from the beginning, is because I was like, I know that I want a business. So this is what we're going to do. So a few different things here, and then just one of the resources that I used to help fill out this chart a little bit more. So let's get into it, talking about sole proprietorship. So like I just said, I just went with an LLC right from the get-go, but I do know a few people who are doing sole proprietorships at the beginning of their practice, and they may or may not change later on. One example is if you're in the state of California, it's a lot of money to invest in a bigger business entity. I believe, don't quote me on this necessarily because I'm in Nevada. Do your research. But all the people that I know who are in California, their only options were either sole prop or an S corp. And in California, LLCs were not like allowed for a therapy practice. So an S corp cost a lot more money, several $100s. I want to say maybe close to $800. Again, do your own research. Versus a sole proprietorship is going to be much less money up front. Again, you might have to pay for the sole prop stuff now and then pay for the LLC stuff, or the LLC or the S corp stuff later. So kind of just depends on like when you want to spend that money. But a sole proprietorship is definitely less money up front. It's also fairly simple. In most situations in states, like you're just automatically by default a sole proprietorship, and you may or may not have like state filing requirements for a sole proprietorship. I know in Henderson where I live, I believe they want you to register as a sole prop, and think it's like $20 or something. I know my sister registered for a business as a sole prop in Tennessee, and it was $16 for the year, I think. So it's pretty low cost. But then kind of like getting into some other stuff here, you're definitely open to more liability, which is kind of the big downside of just being a sole prop. And what happens is, as a sole proprietorship, you and your business are basically one and the same. And like, there's nothing separating you from anything that like goes wrong with your business. So whether it's like business debts or like somebody sues your practice, they can come after your personal assets. And so that's the benefit of having an LLC, is that you and the business become separated, and then like all the business stuff stays within the business. They can only look at your business assets. They can't come after your personal assets. So it separates business and personal assets. So that's a big thing. And that's like a huge reason why people who are going into a therapy practice separate things and choose an LLC or an S Corp or a PLLC, is so that they can separate things and have the protections of the business entity. And speaking of a PLLC, so most states that I know of will accept an LLC as a business entity for a therapy practice. Some states, I think Texas and New York, require or suggest a PLLC. So you're going to want to investigate that. And then, like I said, California would require an S Corp if you wanted to go down that route. And there may be some other states that require similar things. So you just want to make sure that you're looking into that. And those might be like a little bit more involved. And then just a few other things here. So sole proprietorship, from what I was reading on this resource, it's harder to generate equity, and like you can't really have like business partners in that business. I mean, you might be able to, but sole proprietorship basically means like just the one person. And so like you couldn't split the business like 50-50 with a partner, but with an LLC or something bigger, you can. It's also a little bit harder to obtain business credit from what I've been reading versus an LLC, because it's more credible as a business entity. It's easier to get business credit, and easier to probably apply for like bank accounts online and everything. And that's the other thing with the sole prop, there's less market credibility, so to speak, but then again, you could always look into getting a DBA. Like I could register as a sole proprietorship Morgan Meese, and then get a DBA as the Well Physio, and then it becomes a business name. So just a few things to think about with that. You guys who are here with me, let me know if you already have a business entity. Let me know what type of business entity you chose and why. I think that'd be really helpful for other people here in the group to hear from you, like what you chose and why. And if you have any other suggestions, that would be great. But I think like the biggest reason why therapists will choose an LLC versus a sole prop is the liability protection. So I think that's the biggest thing. And second is probably going to be, just the investment right up front. Just depending on how much money you want to invest, or like what you want to invest your money in. So some people might want to invest like hundreds of dollars into business coaching right away, and then like save their money to invest in an LLC once they get clients. That's totally fair. Other people, like when I first started, I did invest in coaching, but I also spent the money to invest in an LLC right away because I only wanted to do it one time. And I wanted to make sure that I had everything set up and the proper like liability protections in place with that. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch on, with when should I do this? Some people I've heard from will wait like months and months and months to register their business entity, whether like there's just like life stuff is in the way, or, they're wanting to make sure that they're in a good spot, or like they're saving up the money or something. Honestly, the sooner you do it, the better. Even if you do start with a sole prop, like at least you're a business now, and you can go out and start doing things. But then the other thing to consider too with an LLC is that I've heard since the pandemic, the processing time for an LLC at the state level is taking a little bit longer than it used to. So if you're considering it, I would recommend doing it as soon as possible so that you can start seeing your patients and everything as soon as possible, instead of just putting off registering for this stuff until you feel ready. Because most likely you're never going to feel ready. So we just need to start taking it one step at a time. So I hope that this helped. If you guys do want, just comment spreadsheet below and I'll share a link to this spreadsheet, if that would be helpful. And then the other thing that I linked to in the description is my mini course, Therapy Business Basics, that goes into a lot more detail on like how to set up a business entity and how to get things going, as well as do billing, documentation, admin stuff. And I've had a bunch of people take it now, I think over 100, and launch their practices in about a week, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on the other stuff that you have going on. So if you're looking for like just like the checklist to tell you what you need to do in order to start seeing patients and doing this stuff on your own, highly recommend Therapy Business Basics, and you can get it at the link above. Well, cool. Well, if you guys are catching this on the replay, definitely let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for being here tonight with me. I'm super excited about the Telehealth Tuesday. Like I said at the beginning, I'm thinking it's helpful, hoping it's helpful. So if you guys have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any specific questions you want to go over, I'd love to hear about that as well. So hope you have a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you soon.